So the bees are dying. Butterflies are dying. Insect populations are rapidly decreasing, and a recent study reported 70% loss in biomass of insects. That is a major, major hit to an interconnected ecosystem of life. The science coming out of the environmental health community is as alarming as the science coming out of climate change. It's all telling us the same thing. We have to change the way we do business in our world. We have to make major changes, and we don't have a choice. And so, and you know, the science coming out about crashing insect populations and also rising health problems is also linked through many, many studies to the pesticides that we're using on our food and in our agricultural systems. Chemicals coming from fossil fuels. And so, as we know what oil companies have done with climate science denial, pesticide companies are doing with pesticide harm denial, using many of the same tactics, some of the same people, and I would say even more effectively, because their story about how we need this intensive industrialized system to feed the world really carries through most of the top media outlets, many people who claim to be progressive, through philanthropic capitalists like the Gates Foundation, which is pushing it very hard, through many people who should frankly know better. So that's why I think it's important to look behind the scenes at how it's all working so we can see through the tremendous effort that's going into spinning the story of food. So there was an amazing story, a truly one of the best stories yet to hit the mainstream media, came out last week. It was in The Intercept. I don't know if you would consider that the mainstream media, but it's definitely a very important source of reporting on chemicals and health in our food system and many topics. So the story was by a reporter named Li Fang, and that didn't work. I'm going to read you the beginning of his, oh, there we go. The beginning of his story, it's called The Pesticide Industry Playbook for Poisoning the Earth. Many seeds in the US come pre-coated with neonicotinoids, one of the most common insects in the world. The chemicals are at the heart of what many are calling the insect apocalypse. They make the landscape toxic to bees, butterflies, birds, and potentially even large mammals. That's why Europe banned them. But in the United States, documents reveal a sophisticated information war to keep them on the market. So the story, it's a very long story. He did an incredible job documenting the number of ways, a truly astonishing number of ways, that companies like Bayer and Syngenta have used to control the narrative about bees and pesticides. So I went through this story with my yellow highlighter. I pulled out all of the tactics that he talked about. I'm writing a report right now with Friends of the Earth and with Real Food Media, a woman named Anna LePay, to document what we know from the Monsanto papers, from recent research, and from the documents from the US Right to Know investigation into how pesticide companies are spinning the story of food. And we've laid out several tactics, and Li Fang's story in The Intercept had examples from every tactic. So I'm going to go through what he reported in this story just by way of showing you the many ways that the narrative around us is being controlled, and then say, you know, this is reporting on one chemical, but this has happened over decades with many chemicals of concern. So the first major strategy, manufacturing ignorance in the science. So this is a very important first step at how chemical companies are having a lot of say in what even comes out in the research. This is a book here I'm showing called Vanishing Bees. Sayaranuyaran, I can't say his last name. I love this book, and Daniel Kleinman. And they really go through, for science geeks like me, it's an awesome book because it goes through the many, many ways that science is organized to make it actually easy for companies to say it's not our pesticides causing the problem. It's not an issue of cooking the books. I don't even have to do that. The science is set up to favor really not knowing. So Cy and Daniel talk about manufacturing ignorance in that book, ignorance being the opposite of knowing. That if we really wanted to know, we would do science differently. And it's complicated. There are many factors contributing to bee loss, climate change, pests and pathogens, pesticides, and not just one, but a range, difficult conditions. So in these difficult conditions, there's been many, many people studying and trying to figure out what's going on. And the weight of the evidence is showing that it's multifactorial, but that neonicotinoids are playing a significant role by weakening bees. But the science is set up to say, if you do a study, this is the gold standard of science, that study has to show a single factor has a provable cause of a lethal disease with a high level of certainty. So there you're going to miss. You will miss what that's the sublethal effects, interrelated factors, the principles of ecology. We're dealing with interdependent ecosystems. So it's been easy for the official science to come out in favor of pesticide companies saying it's not our pesticides causing the problem.